Good morning, dear students. We are still in the chapter hand complex, and today we'll be continuing with the extrinsic finger flexors. So, okay. So, when you're talking about extrinsic, means that extrinsic finger flexor muscles or extrinsic muscles in the hand means the muscles also referred as motors of the fingers and thumb that have proximal attachment above above the wrist, that is a radiocarpal joint. So any muscle which has attachment beyond the wrist towards the forearm, so above the radiocarpal joint, so we call the radiocarpal joint as wrist joint. So any finger flexor or finger extensor muscles, we call them extrinsic muscle when they are coming from outside the or above the wrist joint. You understand that? So any muscles which is originating and attaching beyond the, that is after the wrist joint or distal to the wrist joint, is called as intrinsic muscles. So I think you will not confuse that. Functionally, the extrinsic muscles are also divided into flexors and extensors. We have two groups of muscle, flexors and extensors in the extrinsic muscles. The intrinsic muscles are typically not referred to as flexor or extensor group because several will flex one joint while another will extend another. So we don't put them in groups such as flexor and extensor in the intrinsic muscles. Extrinsic muscles, we can divide them into flexor and extensor. That's why now we are today we'll be discussing about the extrinsic flexor muscles. So we will consider the extrinsic muscles of the fingers. The intrinsic muscles of fingers will conclude with the extrinsic, and so we will be studying that when we are studying the intrinsic muscles. We will study when we study the extrinsic and intrinsic muscles of the thumb. We did not go to the thumb. Now we are still in the four fingers only. So we will study about the intrinsic finger later on. So today we will be discussing about the today we'll be discussing about the extrinsic finger flexor muscles. So mainly we have two extrinsic muscles. We already know that, we have discussed that earlier also, that they are flexor digitorum superficialis and flexor digitorum profundus muscles. The flexor digitorum superficialis muscle primarily flexes the which joint? Proximal interphalangeal joint or PIP joint, but it also contributes to the MCP joint. We know that, we have studied that when we studied the MCP joint also. So here mainly the main primary function is to attach and flex the proximal interphalangeal joint, and but even though when they do that, they also give this action also accompanies with the flexion of the metacarpophalangeal joint. The flexor digitorum profundus muscle can flex the metacarpophalangeal joint, PIP joint, and also the distal DIP joint. So FDP, we can say that it can primary function the what you call as a function alone done by the FDP is the flexion of DIP, that is a distal interphalangeal joint. But three actions it can do: it flexion of metacarpophalangeal joint, proximal interphalangeal joint, and distal interphalangeal joints. It's considered to be more active of the two muscles. So when you compare the flexor digitorum superficialis and profundus is a more active muscle than the superficialis. So with a gentle pinch or grasp, like a pinching, using the thumb and the index finger, usually pinch, like if you are picking up a pin or you are grasping a key or something like that. So pinch or grasp. The flexor digitorum profundus muscle alone will be active. When you are using the index fingers, for example, some pin is on the table, you want to pick up the pin, or if you are going to pick up something by pinching, or even the hold, it becomes a grasp. Here we are not talking about the thumb, we are focusing to the fingers, index to the little finger. So what will happen here? The FDP is more active because now only we understood that FDP only has a role, alone FDP has a role in the DIP joint, that is distal interphalangeal joint movement. Flexion is controlled by FDP. So FDP has a major role in pinching and grasping. So as a greater flexor force is needed, or when finger flexion with wrist flexion is desired, the flexor digitorum superficialis muscles join the FDP muscle by increasing its activity. Whenever you are picking up a pin, you don't need much force. You need what you call as a coordinated and refined movement. So for that only FDP is enough. But if you are going to put more force into the DIP joint or the finger flexors, then who will also join? The FDS will also join, and force will be exerted by the FDS, that is the flexor digitorum superficialis also. The FDS muscle can produce more torque at the MP joint than can the FDP muscle. So torque wise, torque is what? Rotational power, force is called as torque. So torque wise, the angular force is more created by the FDS than the FDP, where in the MCP joint. Not only does the FDS muscle cross fewer joints, so because you know that the FDP is longer muscle than the FDS, so because of that it crosses lesser joints. So FDP muscle crosses more joints. You all know that whenever the joint crosses more whenever muscle crosses more joint, multi-joint, what will happen? Length tension problems will come. Length tension, such as active insufficiency or passive insufficiency, may act because of the the muscle is crossing many joints. So the muscle may be stretched in overstretched by the joint movement. So here also the FDP tendon, because of the FDS muscle is farther from the MP joint, flexion extension, it has a greater MA. Why the FDS is more able to produce more torque is only because FDP has a higher length tension problem. So FDS does not have that, so it has a larger momentum. So larger momentum, you know that it is going to be the more torque producer. Although it is often thought that FDS muscle is stronger than at the PIP flexion, because the FDS muscle crosses few joints. This is not the case. So FDS also, PIP joint flexion, more power comes from the FDS only. In contrast to what it is found at the MCP joints, that is metacarpophalangeal joint, the FDS tendon lies deep to the FDP tendon at the PIP joint and therefore has a lesser MA. In contrast, if you take MP joint, who is having more strength, I already discussed that is the FDS. So tendon lies deep, and FDP tendon at PIP joint, and therefore has a lesser MA. Comparatively lesser MA is seen because it is lying deeper in comparatively, but still it is a stronger muscle. The switch in position between the FDS and FDP tendons occurs just proximal to the PIP joint, where the FDP tendon emerges. So you all know that, if you remember the figure earlier, I will show you later also, the FDP, which is the deeper, which is a deeper muscle, right? FDS is superficial muscle, but what will happen is the FDS will split into two slips and attach to the middle phalanx, whereas then the FDP will emerge out. This splitting area is called as where the splits in the FDS tendon is called as Camper's chiasma. Camper's chiasma is where the FDS tendon will split, and through that split FDP will emerge upward and it will become superficial, and the FDS will end in the and then it will attach it to the lateral sides of the phalanx. So that is an ending point of FDS. So that FDS tendon can attach to the base of the middle phalanx deep to the FDP tendon. Both the FDS and FDP muscles are dependent on wrist position for an optimal length tension relationship. Even though we can say that FDS is a comparatively shorter muscle than FDP, but still FDS is also crossing many joints. All the wrist is crossing all the radiocarpal joint, metacarpophalangeal joint. So all this, it is also crossing the many joints. So they all have to go through optimal length tension relationship for good function. Otherwise, they will have active and passive insufficiency. If there is no counterbalancing extensor torque at the wrist, the volarly located torques, that is a flexor side, that is anteriorly located force, rotational force of the FDC, FDS and FDP muscles will cause wrist flexion to occur. So without any other opposing torque, that is a torque from the extensor wrist muscles, if there is no torque producing, then what will happen? When they are contracting, normally the wrist will go for flexion. Even though the function is to flex the fingers, but because there is no counter torque from the extensor of the wrist, so what will happen? They will go for flexion at wrist also. If the finger flexors muscles are permitted to shorten over the wrist, so just imagine when they do like that, they become shortened over the wrist, what will happen? Loss of tension. Just all of you try to, now you take your right hand and then try to flex your fingers without moving the wrist. Now you can see, now you can make a fist full tight, you can make with the wrist in neutral position or wrist in slight extension position. Now what I am telling you is you open your fingers and then keep your hand straight and then try to flex at the wrist joint. Flex it fully, 90-degree flexion. Do make your right hand flexion. Now without moving the wrist, keeping it in the flexion itself, try to hold your fingers tightly. It is difficult. You cannot do that. Full wrist tight flexion is not possible. Why? Because here the overrun or overstretched finger extensor muscles, extrinsic extensor muscles, they will produce, they will give a, what you call counteracting. That is a passive insufficiency will be there, as passive insufficiency of the extensor muscles, and active insufficiency of the flexor muscles will be there. So flexor muscles are actively, even though you are contracting actively, they become insufficient to contract. So active insufficiency of the long finger flexors and passive insufficiency of the extrinsic extensor muscles, which is not allowing to flex the long flexor muscles. During active finger flexion, as in grasp activity, like grasping, we all have to use our finger flexor muscles strongly. The counterbalancing wrist extensor force is usually supplied by an active wrist extensor such as ECRB muscle, or in some instances EDC muscle. So now what we have understood is the importance of FDS and FDP, how the FDP is a very active role. It has to act in both metacarpophalangeal joint, PAP joint and DAP joint, primary roles. But while flexion, during flexion, they will also produce flexion of the wrist joint. But while doing this, because they are also flexing the wrist joint, but what will happen, with that full flexion of the wrist joint, if somebody tries to flex the finger flexors fully to tight to make a good grasp, it is not possible because of the passive insufficiency of the extrinsic extensor muscle and active insufficiency of the finger flexor muscles. So active insufficiency of the FDS and FDP is why we cannot flex our fingers to make a good grasp. So that makes us understand that in order to make a good strong grasp or grip activity, we need also the help of the extensor digitorum communis, also the extensor carpi radialis brevis muscle. So that means to have a good using our hand for very strong gripping activity, like gripping a hammer and breaking the stone, gripping a hammer to break, like heavy tool activities with heavy tools. Like if you want to use your big knife, you have to break the coconut or something, you have to hold it strong, or to cut the tree with a knife, big knife, what you call big, any tool for that matter, hammer, those kind of activities. You just, with the help of finger flexors, you also need the extrinsic extensor muscle. Then only you can balance. The counterbalancing of the wrist extensor force is very, very important. So this is what you have to understand here. So I hope you understood this. Now we will go to the next part.